Looking to start a church, business, or nonprofit organization in 2021? Do you need help forming an LLC, applying for a copyright or trademark, revising church bylaws, crafting a succession plan, or developing a compensation package for your pastor and staff? Contact the law office of Travell Travis, a Richmond-based legal boutique focused on the needs of pastors, entrepreneurs, creatives, and our community. Let's make your vision a reality in 2021. Visit TravellTravis.com. That's TRAVELL Travis.com. If you're concerned about the future of your organization when you step down, then where will the mantle fall? A biblical and legal guide to succession planning is a must-read for you. It delves into the scriptural and legal aspect of succession planning, characteristics of successors, the people, the process, church bylaws, common myths, even issues with nepotism. Where will the mantle fall? Written by Richmond's own attorney, Pastor Travell Travis, and available at Amazon.com.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mantle Mondays. This is the inaugural episode of Mantle Mondays, and we are this online series is to interview entrepreneurs, creatives, pastors, authors, leaders to learn more about entrepreneurship, leadership, mentoring, succession planning. And so feel free, please like, share, comment, tag someone. If you know someone who's an aspiring author, an aspiring entrepreneur, aspiring pastor, we want to share this information as we bring some of the leaders in the industry to be a part of this series. Good to see you, Mariska, one of my favorite student. I always call you my favorite student. Amen. So we thank God for everyone that's on. So once again, like, share, tag, invite someone to be with us tonight. And so we're looking forward to this series as we bring on different ones to share their story as leaders in their respective fields. And so tonight I'm honored to have for our season premiere as our first guest, one that I've gotten to know and work with and appreciate as a colleague and as a fellow Christian and as an entrepreneur. I call her the incomparable, impeccable, innovative, irreplaceable, and always immaculate Dr. Dana Tyler. Let's receive Dr. Dana Tyler as she comes and joins us in the studio.
Thank you so much, Bishop. I love you so much. I'm so honored. I get to be the first one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tyler, for joining us tonight. Dr. Tyler, for some of you know, was the writing consultant for our second book, Where Will the Mantle Fall? Biblical and Legal Guide to Succession Planning. But I want her to share more of her story about herself and how she came to be where she is today. Tell us, Dr. Tyler, tell us a little bit about, your growing up, and you're not originally from Atlanta. Tell us about your faith journey.
Oh my gosh. So I never would have imagined that this little girl who grew up in San Bernardino, California, would be able to do so many amazing things. But first of all, I want to say you are my absolute favorite client. And I'm sorry if my other clients are watching. I love you all. But Bishop Travis is my favorite client.
And that's
I don't even know where to start. I grew up in San Bernardino, California. I recently transitioned to Atlanta. Gosh, it's been 3 years now. And that was a complete faith walk, I have been a part of the leadership team for Young Leaders Conference, and of course fell in love with Faith Covenant Church and realized that they really, they just seemed to need some help. And I just kept feeling this tug to move to Atlanta. And it took about 3 years for me to actually answer that tug, because, you hear those stories, Bishop, about people who say, I heard the Lord tell me to move, and I didn't have a job, and I didn't know where I was going to go. And I'm like, wait a minute, Jesus, that is not me. Like, I want to trust you, Lord, but I got to have a job. I got to have a place to live. I got to know what we're going to do. And so, just the way the Lord kind of transitioned all of those things, I ended up, when I finally, succumbed to listening to the Lord, I put my house on the market in California, and it sold like within 3 days. And the buyer paid me over my asking price.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, that must be the Lord. And then, I got this really amazing job working for an estate planning law firm. And, salary is not competitive here in Atlanta as it is in California. Right. So, to have a job like that, just kind of like fall into place and all of those great things. And I was like, okay, Lord, because, I need to have, those secure things in order to be able to move. And so just in that transition and taking that leap of faith, I don't have any family here. So right. Yeah, except my FCC and YLC family. So, that was a major, major thing for me too.
Well, that's what I want to ask you. Born and raised in California, and because God leads you, you moved to Atlanta. So what would you tell someone who's thinking about making a similar faith move to an unknown city? What would you tell them?
Make sure you are hearing from the Lord. Because, I remember just praying and asking the Lord for certain things. And, it's really hard to see the Lord in your situation all the time, because we think the Lord is going to bless us in a certain way. And we always think that, when we ask the Lord, help me trust you, mm-hmm. right? And then you just think you're going to wake up the next day trusting the Lord. But what happens is he puts you in those difficult positions where you really have to trust him and get to know him in a different way. And I can truly say that this journey over the last 3 years has been a definite learning God in different ways, and like really being able to trust him and seeing him move like literally day to day.
So in seeing him move, how has God met or exceeded your expectations since you actually moved to Atlanta?
So interestingly enough, I always tell people that God tricked me into moving to Atlanta. No, I had worked in the legal system in California for almost 16 years. So I worked as a legal secretary, a judicial secretary for the Superior Court in California. So it seemed natural for me to just transition into working for a law office. But for the longest time, I always kind of wanted to work for myself, because while I was doing well, financially, like I just didn't have the same time commitments that I wanted. I was spending more and more time doing ministerial work back home. I was I'm still a licensed minister, but, I was taking on more and more responsibilities and working in leadership and just doing different things. And I actually inherited the singles ministry when my husband passed away. So I was taking on more of these responsibilities, and I felt like I just never had enough time to do ministry. And so I was looking for ways to transition into really working for myself. And the Lord really made that possible, especially within, the first couple of years of being here in Atlanta. And then especially in these last, 10 months that we've been kind of quarantined and doing different things during this pandemic. So the nice secure job that the Lord led me to Atlanta for 9 months after being here, I literally got a text one Monday morning that said, don't show up to work. No warning.
What were your thoughts? What
I was like, what is going on? I was like, wait a minute, Jesus. But interestingly enough, I had a conversation with my girlfriend, Teresa Thomas. You may know her from YLC. She
Yes.
is the admin extraordinaire. She's Mark Moore Jr.'s right hand. And she also, she kind of made that transition into full-time entrepreneurship. And funny enough, like that Friday, I just kind of, I was like in a funk and just whatever. And then that Sunday, my pastor had preached a sermon about taking the leap. And he and I had a conversation, and he is like, I need you to make a decision, and you just let me know if you're going to be all in. And I remember telling him that Sunday, all right, I'm all in, whatever. And then I remember talking with Teresa. I was like, how did you know, when you were prepared to go from, that great 9 to 5 to full-time entrepreneurship? Like, how did you make that transition? Because it was something that was really on my heart to do, but I like to prepare for things.
Right.
And she and I we've been talking, Bishop, probably till like 1 o'clock in the morning. And she was like, well, this is what you need to do. And you need to do this, and make sure you made all your major purchases, and make sure you have some money set aside and do this. And she's like, just kind of, do it gradually. You kind of look like you're, on the plan to do it. And so I was like, okay, so that's my plan. So my plan was to go in Monday and just like really start preparing myself, like, and lo and behold, the Lord said, not so.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So
like,
you were thinking entrepreneurship, thinking making a smooth transition, and God just seemingly pulls the rug away from
And I
underneath
said,
you.
nope, we're going to do this. He has expedited that plan. And so fortunately, I had, some money set aside. So I was able to take that year and really focus on ministry. So as I said, I host a series of singles retreats. So
I wanted to jump at that. Tell me about the kingdom.
And that's actually how I got started writing books. So when my husband passed away, I was helping. There was another young lady who was in charge of our singles ministry, and she happened to get engaged. And they're like, well, who can we put over the singles ministry? And they're like, give it to Dana, because she's single now. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, what do we, so I had no idea. Now, Bishop, I got married at 19. So I don't know nothing about singles ministry. I didn't even know we needed one. And so being single again, I was like, well, what are we going to do for singles ministry? So I just decided to incorporate, my social life into singles ministry. So if I was going to the beach, the singles are going to the beach this weekend. If I'm going to a museum, the singles are going to the museum this weekend. And so just in the course of just hanging out with people and being single again, I began to really have a heart for some of the issues that we face as Christian singles. Needless to say, dating has changed since, I've been married. And I noticed that there were a lot of people in our particular church who had some very clear misconceptions about what marriage was going to be like, because we kind of get sold this story that if you do it God's way, everything's going to be magic and perfect, and they all lived happily ever after. And I, had to tell them not so. And then I kind of have, like a natural gift for counseling. People, for some odd reason, want to tell me all their life stories. And, I'm a confidant for people. So what I decided to do is go back to school and finish out some degrees. So my degrees are primarily
You said degrees.
Degrees, yes. So
quickly, let's tell us about degrees. You put an S on it. I finished it.
So I have an associate's in religion. My bachelor's is in religion with a minor in counseling. I have a master's in human services counseling and a doctorate in pastoral counseling. Oh, wow. So, and then I also have an honorary doctorate.
Come on now.
From Next Dimension Bible College. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you use this into, it was a church ministry, and now it has exploded to become a ministry within itself. It's not limited to the church anymore.
No. So that's the thing. And one of the things that I'm really kind of working on doing is really kind of transitioning into just like a relationship kind of consultant, I guess, if you will. So again, so we started the singles ministry, and I was teaching a series during one of our annual conventions. And so our singles group used to be called Holiness is Hot with 2 T's. So because I wanted to prove to us that, you know, we as singles, we can still live fulfilling lives, you know.
Right.
Of course, in, you know, talking with singles, I felt there were so many people who felt like they were less than because they hadn't been married. And, you know, I just really wanted to build people and let them know, like, you're complete in Christ. Your marital status doesn't define you. And so I started writing a book called Kingdom Court. Well, actually, I was teaching a series called Kingdom Courting. So basically, I wanted to change the way we were dating, because I found so many of us were still dating the way we would date in the world, you know, and some of us were still test driving sexually. And, you know, I want to, you know, kind of set some of those things right. And I was teaching at one of our sister churches, and someone said to me, "Sis, these notes are incredible. You're just giving this away.
Mhm.
This needs to be a book." And I said, what do you say? And, you know, he had, you know, self-published a book. And so I asked him, you know, how he had gotten started and all those great things. Well, at the same time, I was also part of a writing project that had about 26 different authors. And it was a very expensive project. We all paid several hundreds of dollars for this project. And then that project actually took longer to complete than my first book.
Okay.
And it wasn't something that I was proud of. So I had gone back to, there were like some missing stories and just, you know, all kinds of crazy errors. And it looked like a self-published book.
Right.
And so I had asked the person who had put the writing project together, because also with 26 different authors, everybody's not necessarily a great writer. They had some great stories to tell, but, you know, the caliber of writing wasn't the same. So I had asked her if I could, you know, take a look at all the stories, kind of edit and fix and revamp and everything. And that's actually how I got started editing. So I took this book, I, you know, went through all 26 authors, all 26 stories, kind of made sure that all the stories were kind of interwoven. We redid the cover, we released it as a second edition, and it was something that I could be proud of. And, you know, with the original project, we had to order X number of books at X number of dollars. And I was like, I could not, you know, in good conscience, you know, sell this book for $30 just to make 5. It
Right.
just didn't make sense to me. And so that's kind of how I got started, just helping other people kind of get into that print on demand, and then just kind of clean up their writing and all of those great things. So out of that came my first book. And then, you know, then I started doing an e-course, and then the consulting.
How many books have you written so far?
Oh, I think like 7 or 8.
Right. The fact that you had to think about the number, I think it's 6 or 7 books. And so the consulting was almost something, it was from a personal experience. And then how did people learn that you were offering consulting, or did you just start advertising that you were doing consulting? How did that connection happen?
So it's all kind of grown word of mouth. I really haven't, I didn't start advertising until recently. And, you know, just using social media and, you know, word of mouth. I feel like if I do a really good job for my clients, they naturally want to share, just like as you have done. You know, I try to do a really good job for people. And my goal is never to gouge anyone. That's what I always tell them. You know, I just want to help you tell your story the best way to the largest audience.
Well, let me ask this, and we're talking about books. What would you say are some of the characteristics of a quality book? How do you know, not every idea is worth publishing. Not every business idea is worth pursuing. How do you discern or decipher, okay, this is something worth putting the time and effort into, or in general, how do I know I have something worth writing?
So I don't like to take on that full responsibility, because I never want to tell someone what's important to them. So, you know, of course, there have been, you know, a few manuscripts that maybe weren't the best,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's also important to give people a chance to get their feet wet. And then I also give them tips for their next book. So, and that's kind of one of the hardest questions to answer sometimes, because they're like, well, what did you think? And I'm like, so, it's like, oh, you know, when I love something, it's very obvious because I can't stop, you know, talking about it. But if I have to, like, well, okay, so you had a good this, but you know, you may have to work on being redundant, or you may have to work on sticking to some points and kind of narrowing your focus. But you know, but that's usually what I do as the editor.
Okay.
And some clients, I don't force anyone. I've had clients who, you know, insisted that they wanted to keep their story as is or what have you. And then I have other clients who actually take my advice and listen, you know, and adhere to some of the changes that I'm making. It's a big, you have to have a really good relationship with your editor. You have to trust them, because some things may be for another book. You know, you may have inserted, you know, too many things, or, you know, there may be things that need to be added and, you know, elaborated on or what have you. So if I come across a manuscript that pretty much has it all together, well, then of course I'm overjoyed as an editor, because then all we have to do is fix, you know, grammar and formatting, and, you know, just make sure the flow is right and all of those things.
So I think you may have said this, but this, I guess, to circle back around, what would you say is the advantage of, you have publishers, you have self-publishing, and then you fall somewhere in the middle as a writing consultant? What would you say is the advantage of pursuing the writing consultant route?
So what Amazon and Barnes and Noble and other major booksellers have done is really, really smart. They've made it easy for Joe Schmo, you know, your average American writer, to become a published author. You don't have to wait for those contracts from major publishing houses in order to become a published author. And while self-publishing has become increasingly popular, anybody can write a book. It doesn't mean that you should. You should still take advantage of the professional services that are available to you, like having a writing consultant, like having an editor, while you still have to make that, you know, time and money investment, because you want to make sure that your book gets the same publicity as a mainstream book. So it's definitely worth it to, while it's not as expensive as doing the full self-publishing route, because again, anybody can put a book out, you know,
Right.
with print on demand publishing, but you want to make sure that it's a quality product that people will buy, that they will refer, and then come back to you. Like, you want repeat clients. So if you put out a book and it's not that great, when they see anything else from you, people are going to be a little bit more reluctant to
So
purchase.
unless you're the Obamas, what's the advantage of going with a publisher? Is there really any in 2020? Are there any advantages really? Unless you got someone who's going to really engage in mass distribution, book tours, putting you on the radio. I mean, unless you have that type of deal, would the average
Right.
person be better served with a writing consultant?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's more economically feasible. And, you know, of course, if you choose Tyler Enterprises, then you're sure to get someone who actually cares about, you know, making sure that your product is good.
Now
And
let me
making
circle.
sure, yeah.
Okay, great. Let me circle back. You mentioned Tyler Enterprise. So we know you have Kingdom Courting, and you also have Tyler Enterprises. And a component of Tyler Enterprises is the writing consultant. But what else do you do under Tyler Enterprises?
So because of the pandemic, I have recently expanded into virtual assistant. So everything that I've done over the past, you know, 16, 17 years in my private career, I have been able to transition those skills as a virtual assistant for other attorneys, which of course worked out great. I had one attorney who was a political candidate for a while. And then of course I have a significant of faith-based pastors, bishops, but they're bivocational. So
Okay.
I assist with helping with their church administration, and then the businesses that they have, or the jobs that they fulfill. So I have a realtor, a real estate consultant. I have a therapist. So the clients vary, and because of the flexibility that COVID has kind of provided for us, it really it made more sense for me to go that route. And I almost wonder why I didn't, do this years ago, but the demand for it has certainly increased.
And then you also have project management.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
your
that
project.
came along as a result of some of the things that we do for YLC. So one of the things that I used to do, just kind of as a side business, and it's one of those things that I absolutely loved, and because I was doing singles and relationships, and people were getting married,
Right.
coming to our retreats, I was doing event planning. So I just kind of transitioned all of those skills. Like I said, this pandemic has really forced creativity and really made me look at what I have in my hands. I kind of had a Moses moment. I was like, God, what am I going to do? And he's like, use what's in your hands. So that's what I have been doing.
So you shared some things you started before the pandemic, some things you started since and have expanded. But in general, what have you seen more challenges or opportunities from the pandemic?
I think I've seen more opportunities. I know it doesn't sound good, because so many people are suffering, and so many people are losing jobs and losing loved ones. And of course, this is it's a horrible thing. But for me, I was kind of having, everybody's thinking 2020 is like just such a terrible year for them. Well, that's what 2019 was for me.
Okay.
So 2020 is the year that God kind of turned some things around for me. And like I said, originally as part of God's plan, he finds ways to take those distressing points, those low points, to turn them into opportunities. And then too, he takes those prayers for, God, help me to love you, help me to
Right.
trust you, help me to lean on you, and all those great things. He takes those situations and turns them around for you. So that's kind of what it has been for me. All of those things that were kind of stressing me out, and just, I was so unhappy, even when I was working with the law firm and stuff. So, I've gotten a lot more freedom and just more opportunities now.
So I saw a question that the posted. I think my wife posted the question. What is it like juggling all this with ministry and keeping it set? Because you have so many clients that need so many different things. How do you juggle all these things? You got people who need telephone calls answered. You got projects that need to be managed. You got books that need to be edited. Like how?
First of all, I don't sleep. No. And this is gonna sound so cliche, but it's totally prayer. And then I also make sure that I make time to go outside. With being isolated, especially from my family, and being chained to a computer for 16, 17 hours a day, I have to make sure that I carve out time really to give to the Lord and give to myself. So I have become an avid hiker, but prior to that, I would always walk my neighborhood, but I have to make sure that I get outside, get into nature, and definitely make time to pray, because otherwise I would lose it.
And I love your nature walks. I'll be looking. That's a beautiful place with the waterfall and the woods.
Yes. And I'm a beach girl, so it's just been driving me nuts. And when I was in California, the beach was like an hour away. I could be in the mountains in an hour, or I could be at the beach in an hour. And now I think the closest beach is like 3.5 hours.
Oh my!
Yeah.
So you've adjusted from beach to wilderness.
Yes.
I don't want to go over our time, but I did have a couple more questions, if it's okay. How do you balance? And I hear Elder Moore talk about this, the mogul in the ministry. A lot of what you do is ministry, but it's also your livelihood. How do you balance the mogul in the ministry, and as well as the promoting of your business? Because I know sometimes Christians say, well, I just trust God you know, he'll bring my name before great people, which is true. But
Yeah.
we don't want to over self promote. But yet, if you're in business,
Yeah.
advertising is important. So if you can tie in all those questions, the ministry, the mogul, the advertising, and trusting God and all of it, how does that balance out? And your price. I'll ask that too. Throw in your pricing too. How do you come up with pricing?
I really did struggle with that for a long time, Bishop, because for me, I want to give everything away. I
Right.
want everyone to come to a retreat. I want everybody to be delivered and all those great things. But what I started realizing is, just like I put an investment into going into school to be better at what I provide to you, that was an investment for me. And so in order to be a partaker of that, and it's so interesting what people are willing to pay for.
Right.
And so I stopped selling myself cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And I really had to learn that the hard way, when I lost the job with the attorney's office, because the retreats were my sole source of income,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to what I had put aside for savings. And so while I wanted to give away spots, if I give away that spot, we're going to be sitting in the dark. And
Right.
I like hot water. I like lights. I like living indoors. So I really had to just think about, there are things that people are willing to pay for. And I asked the Lord to give me the people who wanted what I need or wanted what I provide, needed what I provide, and were willing to pay for it. And there still comes a time, where I let some people, attend for free or get sponsored or whatever, or at a reduced price, or, a payment plan if necessary, or what have you. Because I definitely want I don't want anybody to miss out on the ministry part of it because of money, but
Mm-hmm.
I also try to weed out the people who are just trying to get over,
Right.
like, the difference between somebody who really needs this blessing and they
Right.
simply can't afford it. Yeah,
Right.
we're gonna work with you. But if you just bought a $350 purse and you're trying to come to my retreat for free,
Right.
no, baby, we're gonna work something else out. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
struggle with that because you generally love people, you want to help people, but at the same time you got to pay your bills,
Yeah.
And when you have a service, if you're selling goods, you kind of know, well, the cost of goods and a certain
Mhm.
markup. But when it's a service and you kind of set your price based on your expertise, your training, the
Yeah.
amount of time, sometimes it's hard to convince people what you're worth. So what would you tell
Exactly.
someone who's struggling with, do I lower my price? Do I wait for God to send me the right people who will to pay my price? How do I find that sweet spot?
You have to do both. You really have to do both. It's so important to, I think that part of it too, Bishop, is what made me really focus more on the entrepreneurial side and the professionalism
Mm-hmm.
assigned to it, because you can't ask the Lord, for more, for increase or whatever, and then not show him that you're prepared to properly steward it.
Okay.
So that's where I took seriously, getting the proper licenses, getting the proper, tax forms, and doing everything you're supposed to do, set up your business properly. And one of the things I was really horrible with is separating my finances. So I really had to get, the business account and make sure things go to the business account, and like doing, really good record keeping. And I even hired my friend who is an accountant, because I want I can't ask the Lord to make me a millionaire and I can't manage my hundreds, my tens, or my thousands.
Right.
So, I wanted to put those things into place to make sure that, when all of those things do come, I'm adequately prepared to handle them.
I love that. I love that. So I told you how much time I didn't want to spend too much of your time. This is flowing
It's
by.
your show, Bishop. We can do what you want.
But you mentioned about having things in order. You mentioned that you work for an estate planning firm. Can you talk about the importance of just having your stuff in order? And you reviewed our book, and you mentioned that was an important aspect of it. So can you tie all that in together about having things in order and estate plan some things you might want to say about our book.
Yes. So one of the reasons you're my favorite client is because I absolutely love your book, Where Will the Mantle Fall? Because it addresses so many things that we as believers tend to overlook. And I experienced these things firsthand, also because I lost my husband. One of the things that we, kind of made sure of, and, the next time I get married, I'm gonna make sure I have extra insurance. But we had, insurance and things like that. And we had certain things in place, but everybody goes into a situation. People go into business, people go into relationships, people go into ministry thinking that they're going to be there forever. I don't know what it is about us. We think we're going to live forever. It's not going to happen to us, whatever. And, or we feel like it's not faith in the Lord if we don't put something in place, if we're not there. And I know some pastors who refuse to retire and let the mantle go, and churches unfortunately suffer for it. So I think it's really, really important, especially after having worked for an estate planning firm where I saw that these people plan for generations to come. It goes beyond, living from paycheck to paycheck to what am I going to leave my children or my children's children. And if we think about God, he's generational. God is just so brilliant. He thinks so forward, but there's just something about us in our humanity. All we see is right now and what's in front of us. And so we, even as people of color, probably because we're not used to having here in America, this country is only 400 years old or so. Thinking past paycheck to paycheck, past your lifetime, and start thinking, what am I going to leave for generations to come? What am I going to leave as a legacy? I think that's why your book is so important. And that's why it just appealed to me so much. And just seeing how at the law firm that I worked at, most of the clients were very wealthy. Like, I think our poorest client had a net worth of $22 million.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
our poorest client.
Oh
And we see celebrities who generate money. They have riches, but they don't have wealth because they haven't properly planned on how to expand it, how to grow it. It's not just about buying the best this or that right now, but like, what are you passing on? And many of them are landowners. So, again, it goes to that generational thinking. What can I sacrifice now that's going to benefit my generations to come?
And that's crazy. You mentioned, celebrities and multimillionaires, but we've had celebrities that have passed away without will. Aretha Franklin didn't have a will. Chadwick Boseman, didn't have a will. Prince didn't have. And they have access to attorneys and accountants. Somebody there here telling them to do these things.
Yeah.
So is that a cultural thing? Is it where we just don't see the need of looking beyond?
I think so. Because I don't know why it is, even when we take our vows, right? We say for better or for worse. We're only looking for the better to come. But when worse comes, when sickness comes and all those other things come, those unplanned things come. And again, I say this firsthand, even though, we had some measures in place, I didn't know from one day to the next that I wasn't going to see my husband. And of course that has awakened, me to really think about things a little differently. But, of course, we think everything that we do is going to be forever. And of course, I think sometimes even with celebrities, they get caught up in the hype, that everybody, kind of paints them as immortal when the Bible tells us it's appointed once for all of us to die.
Absolutely.
So, and unfortunately, and I think too, if we as Christians really did our job is really to prepare people to die. We're just trying to figure out where you're going to spend eternity, baby. one place or the other. Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, because we prepare people spiritually for that transition, but we don't necessarily prepare them naturally or materialistic for that transition. So we're in the business of preparing people for death, but those life issues, it seemed like we just
Right.
overlooked it.
We're just going to trust the Lord for it.
Yeah.
But if you look at our God, he's detailed. You know what he did? He left us a last will and testament.
There you
He
go.
left us instructions for what to do after he died.
I love it. I love it.
That'll preach.
And that's why you were such a blessing, because I knew you weren't just a writing consultant, but I mean, you already talked about you have 5 degrees, so I knew you could speak to the biblical integrity of what I was saying, and I didn't know. I don't think I knew at the time about your experience in the law firm,
You
but you could
didn't.
speak to
Yeah.
the financial and legal side. So
Mhm.
you've been a tremendous blessing, because I know that what you're saying. Uh, you're saying it with credibility, you're saying it with integrity, you're saying it with professionalism. And that's why I'll tell anybody in the world, if they want to write a book and publish it, you are the go-to person.
I'm so honored.
Anybody who's contacted me, anybody who's talked to me, say, I'm interested in writing a book. This is my second book. I wish I knew you when I wrote the first one. And I don't mean that in disrespect to my publisher.
I understand.
But when I know what I paid and what I got versus what this time, what I paid.
Yeah.
You need to contact Dr. Tyler. I'll tell you that. Contact Dr. Tyler. And I am so honored to have had you to take time out of your busy schedule
Thank
to
you
be
so
on
much
this.
for having me.
And
I'm honored. I'm the one who's honored. Such a privilege. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
So do you have any final thoughts, anything you would say to an aspiring entrepreneur, someone who hears God telling them to step out the boat and walk on water, but they're wondering whether or not it's God's voice? I teach entrepreneurship, and I say this as well. For 18 years at Hampton University, I taught entrepreneurship, and I find that the young men are a little bit more eager to be entrepreneurs. They want to be their own boss. They want to be in charge. But I find that a lot of the young ladies, that I don't know if they like the more security of the 9 to 5, but they seem a little bit more apprehensive about entrepreneurs. Just as brilliant, just as innovative, but they're not as, or they say, okay, maybe when I'm 40 or 50, whereas the younger guys, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur right out of college. What would you say to that young lady, or just to anyone who God has given them an idea, has given them a burden, a vision, but they're just not ready to put that toe in the water? What would you tell them?
I would say do it, and do it scared. Don't wait for everything to align and be perfect before you get started. Absolutely, talk to people in the field that you're interested in pursuing. Talk to people who have kind of done something similar, because you may even be doing something that no one has ever even thought of doing. And I think sometimes that's even scarier, because you don't necessarily have a template to follow. But do it, and do it scared, because you're gonna be scared. But the payoff will be there. And I would tell you to make sure you have all of your ducks in a row. Make sure you have all of your contracts in place. Oh, that was another thing, Bishop, especially balancing that minister and mogul. Contracts save you.
Yes.
And just make sure that you have, be upfront, be ethical in your dealings. Don't try to cheat people. When you do right by people, that still is ministry, and the Lord will bless you and honor you with that. So do it, and do it scared. And the Lord's going to bless you.
So how do we get in contact with you? If we need you for consulting, if we need you for project management, editing services, if they want to be a part of your singles ministry, or if we need a virtual assistant. I already told you I got to get in touch with you. How do I get in touch with you? This Tyler Enterprises, Kingdom Courting, is that correct?
Yeah, so if you go to tylerenterprises.org, that's where you're going to find all of the writing consulting, the project management, event planning, virtual assistant, all of the writing, all that's there on tylerenterprises.org. You can follow our Instagram page at Tyler Enterprises, ATL. You can connect with me on Instagram at Dana D. Tyler and find me there. You can go to discoverkcu.org for all of our kingdom courting retreats. We did our very first virtual retreat this year, and it's been phenomenal. We have some game nights and great things for singles. You can find all of our books on, I think, either website, and you can connect with Discover KCU, at Discover KCU on Instagram. I try to keep it consistent.
Right, there you go. That's branded. That's the mode. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in social media land, if you could just give thumbs up, round of applause, appreciation to Dr. Dana Tyler. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bishop.
Be blessed. I pray
so
God's
much.
blessings on your life and your ministry, all that you put your hands to do. I pray for overflow, increase, access. I pray the divine favor, that whatever your unanswered prayers, that God will answer those prayers, whatever those desires of your heart, because you have delighted in him. I pray that he will give you the desires of your heart down to the very detail. I pray God's blessings upon your life in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Dr. Tyler. God bless you. God bless you,
Bishop.
Love you. Love you too.
I love you and appreciate you. Thank you so much.
God bless you. Amen. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for joining us for the inaugural episode of Mantle Mondays. I pray that this episode has been a blessing to you. Please like, please share, please comment. Let us know that you are listening. Let us know that you were blessed by this session tonight. If you want to get in touch with Dr. Tyler, she provided her information. But if you didn't quite catch it, feel free to contact us for more information about her and her ministry and her entrepreneurial endeavors. And so as we get ready to close tonight, we want to invite you to connect with us as well on social media. You can follow the Law Office of Travell Travis on Facebook as well as on our YouTube channel. And you can follow us personally on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Snapchat. So we would love to connect with you. We can be a benefit to you. We also encourage you, if not, you can buy our 2 books. Our first, Don't Eat the Baby, The Characteristics of a Cannibalistic Church, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and don'teatthebaby.org. And you can get it in print and ebook format. And then our latest book, Where Will the Mantle Fall? A Biblical and Legal Guide to Succession Planning, once again on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wherewillthemantlepall.org. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a pastor, if you're creative, and you need legal services, we invite you to contact the Law Office of Travell Travis. You can visit our website, travelltravis.com, or you can call us at area code 757-528-8529. Join us next week. We're taking this 1 week at a time, but we're honored. Join us next week as we'll have with us a special guest, author, pastor, conference host, Bishop Michael Penn. Bishop Michael Penn is the pastor of the Galilean House of Worship in Martinsville, Virginia. He's the founder of LIM, the League of Independent Ministers. He's one of the ones that reviewed and endorsed our book. And so we're going to be talking to him about leadership and succession planning, mentorship. So I invite you to join us next week at 7 p.m. And so in closing, we pray God will bless you. And remember, it's never too early to plan for success. Good night and God bless you.